Hey guys, what's up? It is Public back with another video, and today we're actually going to kick off the series I'm going to do over the next couple of days, talking about every one of the covenants and kind of what's good about them, what's bad about them, and frankly what's just ugly about a lot of them. So we're going to kick things off today with Venthyr, so let's get started. Alright guys, so what is good about the Venthyr Covenant? Well, there's actually a lot of great things about the Venthyr Covenant, specifically from a raiding PvE perspective, right? First things first, we have Door of Shadows, the Covenant signature ability. This is, frankly, one of the best utility options we could have asked for as a Shadow Priest. Although, you know, some other Covenants have also really good ones as well. This one does give us that kind of like blink teleport-ish ability, depending on what talents and things that you've taken. And honestly, it's just much, you know, I'm happy with the utility. You're definitely going to use it a lot. Some of the other ones do have more niche use cases or maybe a bit easier to move around with, but Door of Shadows is still an amazing Covenant signature ability. So right off the bat, this is looking pretty solid for Shadow Priest. We don't have the best like burst blink movement, but this gives us an option to do that, right? Okay, guys, and what else is great about the Venthyr Covenant, and frankly, the best part about the Venthyr Covenant is the soul binds, right? So each one of those soul binds I would put in that kind of good to great category from like a rating specific perspective. So let's go ahead and work through all the abilities that each one of them has and kind of talk about which ones I really like and that stand out for me personally. So first things first, we have Nadja. This is the first soul bind that you get here. So first things first, you have an option to give Door of Shadows increased movement speed after you use it for 6 seconds. Again, great. We love extra movement speed as a priest. This is awesome. Again, doesn't obviously really affect our damage, but wanted to call this out. That's pretty solid. And for Nadja, you get to choose. You have 2 options here. You can either use Exacting Preparation or Dauntless Duelist, or you can say, actually, I'm going to use a Conduit instead. So this is that Conduit choice you get here. So you can either pick a Conduit or Exacting Preparation, which is gives you benefits of Well-Fed, Flask, and Weapon Enchants are increased by 15%. Obviously, this does change depending on what, you know, Weapon Enchant, Flask, or whatever you're using, but just it is, you know, potentially very solid. 15% is a big deal, so we'll see what this is. Or Dauntless Duelist, which is kind of this single target priority thing. You basically mark a target, you do deal 4% increased damage to that target, and then once they die, it'll move to the next thing you hit, right? Which is, again, great for priority target raid boss damage. This is awesome. Just make sure you put it up on the right target. So again, a great option, especially kind of early game if our conduits don't scale super well early until we get those higher ranks of conduits. These are going to be great options to have early on in the game. And then Nadja's final ability, her signature ability, so to speak, that you always get this no matter what, is Thrillseeker. It's basically a mini Bloodlust, and after looking at the Sims, we definitely are going to want haste, 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 and more haste going into Shadowlands, assuming we don't get any more changes, which I'm sure we will. So right now, Thrillseeker looks pretty solid. It doesn't proc like that often, but again, getting, you know, free haste is free haste, right? Moving on, the next soulbind that you get as a Venthyr is Theotar. Again, also putting Theotar in this good category. He's got a lot of great options for us. So first things first, Door of Shadows frees you from roots and snares. Pretty solid. Again, almost every one of these covenants gives you an ability per soulbind to augment their ability. So this one is also giving you that snare and root break, which is nice. Level 1, this kind of next thing you get to choose here. Again, you can choose a Conduit or one of these abilities. The first one is Refined Palate. So combat potions last 20 to 100% longer, which is pretty sweet. Obviously, this greatly depends on the tuning of those combat potions, but definitely has potentially be very solid. The other option you can pick is Soothing Shade. It's basically just a mastery proc. There's a kind of an event that happens in the game, and you stand underneath this umbrella, and you get mastery. Again, mastery isn't the best stat that we have to offer, but it is, again, it's a free stat that we get, so you do get the choice between those two. Again, you can also then slot in a Conduit at some point if that becomes better, which, you know, wait on the Sims, we'll see. And then the guaranteed kind of final ability you get, or the level 2, whatever you want to call it, is Wasteland Propriety, can't say that word very well. Using mind games in this case, it grants you 10% versatility to yourself and then 4% to 4 nearby allies for 10 seconds. This is particularly strong for us as Shadow Priests because we, again, because this is, you know, everyone gets this if you pick Venthyr. But since Mind Games is on such a short cooldown, one of the great things about it, or one of the only good things about it, it does make us, we do get this verse quite often. And verse is probably going to be tied for our second best stat right now with crit. So you're not going to say no to verse. So again, Theotar is looking pretty solid. And the last Soulbind, General Draven. I'm putting him in the good category. I guess he could also be considered meh, but you know, he's not bad. He's not really ugly. He's there, and I think he's a good option to have if that's what you want. So let's go over what he has. So first things first, built for war. You can choose built for war, superior tactics, or a conduit. So this is that first choice. So while above 80% health, you gain 1% intellect every 3 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. But if you fall below 50% health, drops this effect. Intellect is looking reasonably strong for us coming up in this patch. So again, not shying away from intellect here. So you can choose that, or superior tactics, which is basically kind of a reformed Cepha's secret. So interrupting or dispelling increases your crit by 10% for 10 seconds. Can only occur every 30 seconds. Pretty solid. Again, crit's probably going to be our second best stat, tied with verse. So it's actually pretty solid. And moving on, we have another kind of bonus you can pick here to your Door of Shadows. So now Door of Shadows grants you a shield that absorbs damage. So this is kind of taking the best of all the worlds, right? You know, there's a Necrolord shield you could have gotten. There's a Blank or a Root Break you could get. But you can get all those with Venthyr as well if you take the right Soulbind, which is cool. And then the last signature ability for Draven, again, this is why I put him in the med category, because this isn't super great, but it can be useful depending on progression. So it's called Service in Stone. Reduces your damage taken by 10% below 40% HP. But then if you die when you have this Soulbind, you then explode for damage and healing after a few short seconds. So again, not super obviously damage increasing, like you have to die to get damage out of this. But from a progression rating standpoint, if you're on a boss that like you don't need to deal a lot of damage on, but it's actually just dealing a lot of damage to you specifically, this might be a Soulbind option that you can pick. You can still slot 3 DPS conduits, so having this as an option in that kind of progression rater toolkit sounds really nice to me. So guys, those are all the great things about Venthyr. Let's move on to the bad and ugly stuff. Okay guys, so what is bad about the Venthyr Covenant? Well, this is actually going to get combined into the ugly category. There's actually not that much in here, but frankly, the worst part about the Venthyr Covenant is their Covenant ability that priests get, which is Mind Games. So I'm putting this in the bad and the ugly category. I absolutely don't understand why this Covenant ability exists. It's super boring. It has no interaction with our spec. We sometimes get Insanity when we press it, but it has a cast time. It's just kind of all over the place. It's not fun to press. And frankly, even in AoE, you probably don't even want to push the button. It's that bad. They keep trying to like maybe buff the damage, and I'm sure that might help a little bit. But, right now it's doing about 2%, 3% on single target. Frankly, that's just unacceptable for an ability that only hits single target. And again, the Insanity is not guaranteed, right? So again, they keep buffing this damage a little bit. I don't think that's what it needs. I think it needs a whole rework, because frankly, this is the worst part about choosing the Venthyr Covenant. If we had a great Covenant ability here, I think I'd be much more willing to say that this is probably the choice for rating, or one of the best choices for rating. But because of the Covenant ability, it definitely brings it down a bit more in line with the other options. So, if you don't like Venthyr, I guess consider that a good thing. But right now, that's definitely the linchpin in the Venthyr Covenant, guys. But that is the good, bad, and ugly of Venthyr. Hope you guys enjoyed. Come back the next couple days. We're doing the rest of the Covenants. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think. And let me know if you're, like me, very excited about Venthyr, or if you're looking for something else. All right, guys. See you in the next one. Thanks.